Hello, I'm Dahl Russell, and today I'd like to share with you a little bit about the life and times of Felix Mendelssohn, who lived from 1809 to 1847, and his Violin Concerto in E minor, Opus 64. The conductor Kurt Masur said, "Of the great Romantic composers, Mendelssohn is today the most undervalued." Pianist Roberto Proceda described his music as an idyllic world that is expressive but not dark. And pianist Lang Lang speaks of his music as having energy and freshness and sweetness, musing that, "I think he was a very happy person." Assimilation was as much of a hot topic in the Germany that Mendelssohn was born into as it is in many countries, including here in the States, today. Just a few years after the birth of Jakob Ludwig Felix Mendelssohn Bartholdy, known as Felix, in 1812, Jewish people were given the right for the first time to become German citizens. And perhaps because of this new possibility, the question of assimilation became a much larger issue for Jews. Is it enough to become a citizen, or should they also convert? One driving factor of this decision was the German concept of Volk, the V-O-L-K, folk, of being one unified people. Being German rose in importance above all other things, of belonging to the folk, of not being different. The solution for the Mendelssohn family was to convert. Siblings of Felix's father converted to Lutheranism first, and then Felix's father, a wealthy banker, also decided at this time not only to convert, but to change their last name to Bartholdy. Just another way to make the conversion much more obvious. The family was open enough about both the conversion and the name change that by their adulthood, both Felix and his sister Fanny had discussed it and knew that they both preferred to use the name Mendelssohn. Raised as a Lutheran, this does not mean that Felix suffered no bigotry. In his teens, there was an incident at the beach when another boy threw rocks at him, calling him a dirty Jew. His sister Fanny wrote that he handled the incident well, but he broke down later that evening, and it was hard to know if he was more upset about the incident itself or that it upset him so much. He'd considered himself a Lutheran. Knowing his family had converted, it must have been hurtful and confronting even within himself. Still, it's important that we understand this incident is really set apart as an anomaly during their lives instead of the norm. Due to their wealth, their social position, their education, and their talent, most biographers write of their lives as being quite easy, and they consider Felix's hardest choice to be deciding between his many talents. Mendelssohn was the eldest son of a wealthy family and is generally considered today to have been even more of a prodigy than Mozart, and definitely more of a polymath. He excelled in multiple areas: languages, writing, music, sketching, and painting. And I do mean excelled. He really could have been one of the great painters of his day. He has sketches of precise architecture and paintings of beautiful landscapes, and often very evocative combinations of nature and cityscapes. Within the social and political world of the day, and consequently within German musical romanticism, was another form of this idea of the folk, the idea of music, especially German music, as a mission. That German music must appeal to all people as a moral standing. Music should act to soothe and ameliorate the human condition, and music is for the good of all. Mendelssohn immersed himself in the study of the music of his German forerunners, Beethoven and Bach. Fanny wrote that the level of his devotion to Bach was like a cult. And Mendelssohn's early writings of piano fugues, keyboard fugues, are often considered to be indistinguishable from Bach's works. This devotion to Bach and Beethoven remained part of his adult life and work, where, as a conductor, he brought Bach's large works back out of obscurity and programmed and conducted the works of Beethoven that were still new and considered difficult to some as a way of educating. His attitude of creating an orchestral concert was really formative for today, where concerts are planned to educate listeners in addition to entertaining, familiarizing the audience with forgotten works, refamiliarizing them with difficult works, introducing new works. All this is now standard. This kind of seriousness of purpose seems to have just been a part of his being, a part of who he was. Mendelssohn's handwritten scores are notorious for how neat and meticulous they are. It's said that his corrected manuscripts are so clear that they could be conducted from, as clear as a printed score. He introduced the baton into use for conductors and wearing formal black, like a magician of music. He was respected for his values as much as he was loved for his singable tunes. He said in letters that he wanted his music to, quote, address the grandest things, unquote, large-scale visions, the grandeur of landscape and nature, particularly, how do we do good in the world? And while he was considered fairly conservative in his musical style, he was intentionally trying to do something very difficult, to build on and to advance the German musical form. He had to re-educate people in the music of Bach, to help them understand that his own works were grounded in these, and also how he was attempting to add other layers onto them. For example, his counterpoint unites Bach's form of counterpoint with more singable voices, which gives it more of an appeal and a clarity. Written at 16, his string octet is known for a translucent quality, a simple tune over an energetic background, but the tune so clear that it just seems to float above all of the activity. And today, we can immediately recognize this as his sound. We know this sound so well from A Midsummer Night's Dream. Cellist Stephen Isserlis said that this positive moral mindset and his singable melodic qualities helped many critics to denigrate Mendelssohn's work. At the same time that his works were referred to as too sweet, they were also called too conservative and also too innovative. And the worst was too facile. Even today, we have to watch for statements like this by critics, because they are simultaneously unassailable, because the idea of being facile is so ephemeral and personal, and also indefensible, because what exactly are you defending against? It's almost more of a criticism of his personality. Isserlis points out that being called facile was like a sheep bleating. One critic bleats facile and another one bleats facile, ba, 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 like a herd of sheep bleating. This being called facile actually helped his critics later on, when Wagner and later the Nazis wanted to isolate and exorcise Mendelssohn's music because it did not fit into the political narrative of the day. These intangible critiques were made very useful. Today, we need to remember that when his music was forbidden, that was less than 100 years ago. So in many respects, we still are living under the repercussions of what it means in terms of our overall lack of familiarity with his whole body of work. His work was very popular during his lifetime, something that many composers never see, so he was fortunate. The Violin Concerto we hear today is beloved for its melody, and it is a concert staple. And we will find it easy to enjoy. I want to leave you with the words of violinist Anne Sophie-Mutter. This concerto is often played too slowly. It has a youthful passion and impetuosity, the desire to elope with your beloved. Bringing all of that together with the pure expression of the music is the most difficult thing that a musician can do. The Violin Concerto of Felix Mendelssohn. Thank you.